Opposition party leaders are pushing for more accountability from the Ford government. This after a staffer named in the Greenbelt controversy resigns. The announcement came yesterday in a statement from Premier Doug Ford's office. It simply reads, the Premier's office has accepted Ryan Amato's resignation as Chief of Staff to the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, effective immediately. But no other explanation was offered.
And the move comes amid fallout from the Auditor General's Greenbelt report that found the process was biased and favored developers with access to Housing Minister Steve Clark's Chief of Staff. Amato was the staffer primarily responsible for choosing which sites on the Greenbelt would be opened up for development. Opposition parties say that the move is not enough.
The minister's chief of staff has resigned. That's a first step. But quite frankly, the minister should resign. I mean, this is a huge scandal that's outraged people across the province. And what's so infuriating, it's actually going to make the housing affordability crisis worse because none of this land is serviced. So these handful of land speculators are going to cash in $8.3 billion. We're going to pay the price for it. And the Premier has failed to hold his minister accountable.
Ontario NDP leader Marit Stiles has released a statement which reads, in part, this is the bare minimum of accountability for one of the most serious breaches of public trust in Ontario's history. The Auditor General's report was very clear. The staffer obviously didn't act independently. Now it's time that the minister take responsibility, do the right thing and step down. Mr. Ford needs to face the music.
Okay, right now let's bring in CTV political commentator Scott Reed. Scott, good morning. First off, what does this development from the Ford government say to you about their damage control approach?
Well, it's puzzling. And it's puzzling because it immediately begs two questions. Why and why now? They did not explain this move. And so why? Because up until this date, the Premier's office was boasting that the Premier refused to cut the staffer loose, that nothing wrong had occurred. Yes, there's been some process problems, but that was really no big deal in the scheme of things. So why are they cutting this guy loose and why are they doing it now? Either they know that their polling numbers are taking a monster hit and they're desperately thrashing about hoping that by cutting this guy loose in the same way that the Joker, shoots some henchmen, that it might help. Or they know that something else is coming down the pike. They know something else about OPP investigations or something else about the Integrity Commissioner, and they're trying to get ahead of it by cutting off an arm and hoping that they can save the government body.
Well, you seem to be saying the same thing a lot of critics are saying, that it's a little fishy, and because it's being done so quietly, other motives might be at play here. Scott, I want to know, in your opinion, Marit Stiles is saying that it's quite obvious he didn't act alone. Is that something that you're also agreeing with? Could we see the minister step down eventually?
I absolutely agree that the staffer did not act alone. It's a preposterous notion. If anybody's ever served in government, I have, at the provincial and the federal level, the idea that this program, this process was designed entirely by the staffer, that the Premier's office, that the minister were completely unaware of the details. It's an absurdity. So I think, this staffer facilitated a process that was, as the Auditor General found, biased, that preferred certain developers. It ends up being worth $8.3 billion in their genes. That's a big deal. And I think this is the tip of the iceberg, not the bottom, not the whole of the iceberg. The government knows that. I think it's a first move. If you think about this as a poker game, they're just putting down stakes. I think there are going to be more chips to fall.
Okay, well, on that note, Scott, looking at this from both public relations as well as, administrative standpoint, now that they have a fall guy, is the Ford government is just over and done with this? Can they actually just go on and just move forward now?
It's a great question. That may be the objective. I don't know that that's a plausible likelihood. And again, it kind of comes back to what is the scenario we're really looking at. We don't know something that the government knows. The government either knows that its poll numbers have taken a dive and this issue is really harming them, and they're hoping by cutting this guy loose that will fix the problem. Maybe. My guess is it probably won't. Certainly not with more reports yet to come that will probably reveal more damaging facts. Or the government knows that these new reports are coming out, that they do have new things, and they're trying to get ahead, in which case, again, it's not likely to be an adequate response, certainly not a full response. One wonders if here in the sleepy last couple of weeks of the summer, they're tossing this guy overboard, hoping that it helps to set the deck where they can say, well, look, we've accepted recommendations from the Auditor General. We've actually fired a staff member. We've taken corrective steps. I just don't think at the end of the day, when people look at the full complexion of it, it will be an adequate enough response. My guess is that Steve Clark does not make it to Christmas.
Okay, and with that, CTV political commentator Scott Reed, thank you very much.